Hello, students. Myself, Vasudha Chandan Shive, Department of Political Science, KTHM College. We are here to learn about the subject democracy, election, and governance. We have already learned the introductory part of this topic, and the chapter we are going to start is the democracy, its foundation and dimension. In that, we are going to learn about in detail the evolution of democracy. So, we will begin now. So, we are going to learn about the evolution of democracy. So, as we talk about democracy, it is now politically fashionable to talk about democracy because every part of a country or every part of a globe knows about the democracy. It is a vast concept about the democracy. It has its historical background and very merits about the democratic establishment. So, what the meaning of the democracy is, we will see it. So, the meaning of democracy is this terminology means democracy. It is derived from a Greek word, means kratos means the power, and the meaning of demos means people. So, it wholly means that rule by the people. So, when we move further, it is not very easy to define democracy. Okay? So, when the writers or the thinkers speaks about democracy, it is a vast portion and it is comprehensively and prescribably very difficult to define about democracy. But then too, some writers has or thinkers has given a proper definitions about the democracy. We will see in the next slide. So the definition given by C.D. Burns, he says that democracy is word with many meanings and some emotional colors. And it is not an algebraical uh, symbol, but a flag or the cell of a trump for some. And further, he also says that for others, an absolute mythology, which has undesirable connection with capitalism and imperialism. So, when we move further in the further slides, when we see what are the elements or the requirements or the instrument of democracy, we will learn about the capitalism and imperialism, how it directly connect to the democracy. After that, the next definition, which is given by the em burns, speaks beyond the cd burns, that few words have been more loosely have variously defined than democracy. It has almost literally meant all things to all men, means government as a share. In short, he has given this definition. When we move further, the origin of democracy, it is from the ancient time the democracy has inserted in the globe. So, the history of Herodotus, it is the evolution of democracy, means the popular sovereignty, which is given by the Satorari. He has given this definition that the evolution of democracy is from the history of Herodotus, means the absolute absolute liberty to everyone and the equal share of government to everyone. So, the origin in the ancient age was that in India, at that time, the concept of Swarajya was established and many kings were ruling on the India. So, in ancient India, the democracy was not acceptable because with the large population, the area, the ratio, according to that, and the willing power of the people and the illiteracy. So, in ancient India, democracy was not actually inserted. After that, the in the medieval age. So in medieval age, the fall of Europe, the Europe war, the fall of Rome in Europe, the medieval age, the absolute monarchy established. So there was no the seed of democracy at that time also. And after that, when from the medieval age, the absolute monarchy started, and in modern age, it it decided, or it was practices that the absolute monarchy was for the exploitation of the human being. So in modern times, the England has given the parliamentary democracy. This gift is given by England to all of us, and from the modern times, the democracy evolved. And at the last, the golden age. Now, the democracy is in the hand in hand with nationalism, and we practice as a democracy, as our trumpet, as our integrity and the dignity of our country. So this is the actual origin and growth of the democracy. How from the ancient age it was not involved in our India, not to in Europe, and not to in the England or USA. But in the modern times, as England started the parliamentary democracy, as they introduced the parliamentary form of government, in the modern age, the democracy inserted. We started practice from the modern age until now in the golden age also. The golden age in the sense of the democracy, the golden age. After that, when we see the models of democracy, there are two models of democracy. One is direct democracy and another is indirect democracy. So there are two forms of democracy. We will see the comparison between the direct democracy and indirect democracy in the further slides. So the parameters on the comparison of direct democracy and indirect democracy is that, first of all, the meaning. So the meaning of direct democracy is a form of government where policies and laws are taken by people by common voting among them. And whereas in indirect democracy, it is a form of government where the citizen of the state elect the representative for deciding on the behalf of them regarding laws and policies. Means we will see the examples of indirect democracies also and direct democracies also. So the transparency between the two are, there is in direct democracy there is a complete transparency when it comes to a country or a state following direct democracy, and whereas there is not much transparency in the indirect democracy when it comes to a country or a state that follows indirect democracy. So these are the dimensions of meaning and transparency between direct and indirect democracy. Now, after that, the barriers of direct and indirect democracy. So there are no barriers or intermediates in a country following direct democracy, because people actually are involved in that. And in indirect democracy, the people elect the representative, and the corruption or exploitation, these all things are that which impact the indirect democracy. So there are intermediates or barriers where a country follows indirect democracy, and the efficiency of direct and indirect democracy is, a country or a state following direct democracy is said to be a less efficient, because people actually are involved and there is no new progress in that. Whereas a country or a state which is following indirect democracy, it is said to be a more efficient, because after every 5 years new government is there, and new projects will be happening and new experiment will be done. So it is more efficient. And the examples of direct democracy is newly the Switzerland, which is an absolute example of direct democracy. And in indirect democracy, the country like India, France, USA, these are there who follow the indirect democracy. So this is the meaning of direct and indirect democracy. We have learned by the comparison of that. When we move further, we have several ideas and principles of democracy. So it is based on this principle, what is democracy. So the first one is principle of liberty. So when we go through the word liberty, it means we will not work according to others' will. So this is the basic principle of the democracy. Absolute liberty is given to everyone free and fair election is held, and that we have liberty to vote according to our will. This is the principle first and a very most principle of democracy. After that, the principle of equality. Now the principle of liberty and equality is going hand in hand, because where liberty is practiced, it is equality it equality is there, because when we give opportunity to choose the bread or a free freedom, the people actually choose the bread. This is the example that liberty and freedom, it goes hand in hand. And equality means equality before the law and equal protection of law. These are the basic concept of the democracy and a idea and principle of democracy. After that, government of people means, as we know the popular definition of Abraham Lincoln. So he has given the definition about the government, that a democracy is a government by people, for people, and to the people. So he has given this famous definition. Means the people will elect the representative for their welfare, and that it is not that whole people will rule according to their will. They will elect one representative by their will, and according to them they will certify, or they will be satisfied to their needs, and they will the representative will represent his or her problems, and the solutions will be there. After that, rule of majority means, if an election is held, the majority seats will be there. It is not the concept of minorities or majority, is the rule of the majority. Means the party which has gained the majority seat will rule the country. This is the another important principle of democracy. After that, the freedom, rights, abundance, and public welfare. When we go through the freedom, rights, the public welfare, the abundance, we have fundamental rights, fundamental duties, DPSPs. We have involved that. According to in the year 1976, when it was actually known that now right to means fundamental duties should be inserted, there the abundance and public welfare was inserted. Means till now 1962, the China and uh, Indo and China war took place. After that, the government realized that in 1976 we should insert the fundamental duties, and which will gain to the public welfare. So the freedom, rights, and abundance and welfare was is the another idea and principle of the democracy. After that, democracy, it is not a form of government, it is a way of life, because it gives us fundamental rights which we practice, or it it is a way of life because it gives us right to speak, express, believe, faith, worship. All these things are in the form of democracy. It will be not seen in a direct democracy. So it is also it is also government which give us the meaning of life, the color of life. And further, it is against the imperialism and war. So we when democracy goes beyond the welfare of the people, it is the aggressive oppositions of the imperialism, capitalism, and war. So these are the several ideas and principle of democracy. After that, so when we practice democracy in our country, it has some instrumental requirements. Means democracy needs some instrumental requirements. So the requirements are a good written constitution. So when we have a supreme law in our hand, it is very easy to rule a country or have a welfare state. So it is because of a good written constitution. It has inserted executive, judiciary, legislature, and as well as the administrative law, which are for the smooth running of the and scrutiny of the country. After that, a legislature with elected members means the people actually vote the representative they are directly elected by the people for their welfare, and they sit for them. So this is the another requirement of democracy. After that, an accountable executive means the members which are there in executive, they are indirectly elected in the executive, or they sit there for the welfare of the people as well, but they are indirectly involved. So it is also an requirement for the smooth and scrutiny running of the country or a democracy. And a fearless, learned, and very efficient. The another point is the independent judiciary. For every person, the law is equal to all, or a person is equal before the eye of law. So it is another very important requirement of the democracy. The next point is the political parties. So, as we study about democracy, the political party is the whole and soul of democracy, because it takes the uh, meaning of the people, or the life of the people, to uh, uh, to utilize that and make the political parties which it will further be a government, or it will be a opposition party. So it is the whole and soul of the democracy. After that, an effective opposition party. So when we take example of Britain, the two party system is there, which means if the government which are the power, party which has power in their hand, if they practice, or they exploit any human being, or have done wrong to the constitution, the effective opposition party can throw out them, and they can form their government, and they start ruling in the manner of a democracy. So it is very important to have an effective opposition party in a democratic country. And the next point is local self-governing body. Means from the grassroots level, the democracy is there. Means from Panchayati Raj, the Zilla Parishad, all these things are there from the local bodies. Because it is the dream of Mahatma Gandhi to have politics or have democracy from a grassroots, or development or welfare of all people is from the bottom of the country. And the villages are the point root or a grassroots where the uh, development takes place. Not every common man can go and sit in parliament. He can be there in a panchayati raj or a zilla parishad, and he work according to his will for his brotherhood. And the last one is free and fearless press. Means the media. It is the fourth step of the democracy. The free and fearless press, and and also the election which is there, which is adult franchise. That the about 18 years, every citizen has right to vote, and the media is also there, which gives the information about the democracy, how it works, and for the smooth running of the country, it is also important. It is also a very important institutional requirement of democracy. So what the conclusion of the basic democratic principle is, we will see it in a few points. So democracy allows all individual right to speak, criticize, and disagree with each other. As we have fundamental rights, we have right to speak, we have right to associate, we have right to assemble, we have right to criticize and also disagree with each other. This is the conclusion about the democratic principle, the basic democratic principle. After that, it follows plurality of ideas and ideology, and stands firmly for the principle of tolerance. It is wedded to methods of persuasions and peace, both in the internal and international sphere. So, democracy works not just only works in a internal, it works all over the international sphere also, in our international affairs also. And it it is built on a foundation of liberty and equality. As we have learned about that liberty and equality goes hand in hand, and it is very important. And in the conclusion, when we comprise our preamble also, the conclusion is that the democracy, liberty, and equality are the three elements which goes beyond. After that, it upholds the dignity of a human personality and give various kind of right to the individual. It actual practice democracy means the rule by the majority with full safeguard for right of racial, linguistic, religious, cultural, and other minority. Means here we see there should be no discrimination according to on the basis of the racial, linguistic, religious, cultural, or other minorities, as it is there in our fundamental rights. And it is a government aiming at all the welfare of all, and it is a form of government in which sovereignty is in the hand of the people. So these are the conclusion about basic democratic principle which we have learned, how the evolution of democracy is there, what are the institutional requirements, and what and the models of democracy. Now we will have a look on this summary what we have learned. So, first of all, we have learned about the institutional requirement of democracy, a good written constitution, and accountable executive, legislature. After that, an independent judiciary, political party. After that, an effective opposition parties. So, these are all institutional requirement of a democracy. After that, when we when the preamble describe the source and objective with the clear idea of democracy in India. So the democracy is the actual word which we can see in a preamble, and it represent the India. Democracy is a word with many meanings and some emotional colors, as C.D. Burns has given the this definition. And we have seen the models of democracy, direct and indirect democracy. We have seen the comparison, the parameters on the comparison is happening, the meaning, the transparency, the efficiency, and the barriers, and the examples where the indirect or direct democracy is practiced. So the assignment for the students are that explain the models of democracy and explain the meaning and definition of democracy. So that's all about the evolution of democracy. So in the next lecture, we are going to see about the dimension of democracy. In that, we are going to see social, economical, and political democracy. So that's all about the lecture. Thank you.